All yours.
All right. Do we need to give it a little bit of time?
No, it's 4:01. Let's just be on time.
All right, let's do it. Let's be on time. Let's be present. Let's be here. All right, so welcome you guys. I'm very happy to have you guys. Happy to have you guys here on this Friday afternoon. It is Friday. I'm tired too. I'm sure you all are. I'm sure you guys have had a heck of a week, a heck of an engaging week. You've probably been just inundated with knowledge, information, and just tons of things from different companies. But I have the fortunate pleasure today to talk to you guys about USAA. And so I am representing USAA. First things first, I have a couple questions for you guys. Do you guys know how to use the Zoom emojis, right? So like raising the hand and like the clapping and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you all for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. So if you can take them all down for a minute. Yep. Awesome. Couple more thumbs up still, bring them down if we can. I've got questions. All right, so question for you all. How many of you have served as part of the military, armed forces, or are part of the reserves? If you have, please put your thumbs up or raise your hand. Okay, keep them there. How many of you have parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters who have served? Raise your hand. All right, getting closer. How many of you have friends or very close relatives in general that have served, or you know someone who has served? Okay, looking good. The reason why I ask is because that is the embodiment of USA's mission. You all know who we serve. Our job at USAA really is just more of is to make sure that we're serving our membership by providing a suite of products that really enhances their lifestyle as they go out and do what they need to do for us to enjoy our liberties and freedoms here in the United States. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to share my screen and going to jump through a couple of things around our campus here in Phoenix. So just so that you all are aware, USAA is headquarters. They're out in San Antonio, Texas, but they have locations out in Phoenix. They have locations in Tampa. They also have a location in Colorado, and they have a location in Plano, so Dallas, Texas. So the neat part about the Phoenix campus is it's very diverse and it's very unique. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a video with you guys that kind of highlights some of the amenities and some of the beautiful campus in which we have. And since everyone here is in Phoenix, the cool part is this is North Phoenix. So if you're familiar with the I-17 101 area out near Norterra, this is where this campus is. So Phoenix North. Okay, you guys ready? Here you go. All right. So with that, right, you guys kind of got to see a little bit of the Phoenix campus and just kind of some of the amenities that we have here. And it's really a beautiful campus. It's over 1 million square feet. All of the rock in which you guys can see, and I really should have asked this. You all can see my screen, right? I'm not that done on a Friday afternoon, right? Okay, good. Thank you. All of like the red rock that you see that's associated to the building was actually mined out of Arizona. So up in the Sedona area. And so one of USAA's biggest things is they're extremely eco-friendly. This is one of the most eco-friendly buildings possible, or not possible, but one of the most eco-friendly buildings and campuses that USAA has to offer. And they're very much tied to rooting themselves into the culture in which we live in, right, within Phoenix. So with that, kind of moving on to the next piece is, we have a lot of diversity groups at USAA, right? One of the biggest things about USAA is not only that it's an embodiment of who we serve, but it's also serving ourselves and serving others. So with that, right, we're extremely diverse. We offer many different programs, right, to support different groups. And it's really a testament to the culture in which USAA is continuing to build upon, and also to help drive us forward Make a work environment, a place that's inclusive, a place that where everybody can be happy, a true workplace of choice, right? And this is not just IT. This is for everyone else in the company. So really jumping a little bit more into it is, who is USAA, right? What are we, right? I keep mentioning members, and we talked about military, and that's who we serve. But at the end of the day, we're really four different pillars, right? We are an advice group, right? But our two biggest ones are in insurance. So you'll see banking here, but really it's more insurance. We also handle things like investments, and then also too, right, preparing for like major life events and things of that nature. So there's a suite of products that are along the lines of like life insurance, lining people up to help you out with situations of that need. So it's a unique place. It's a unique opportunity. And the cool part that I get to do with you guys today is talk a little bit more about technology. But before I do that, I'd actually like to relate with you all. So as I shared, I'm a senior IT manager, right? I work within USAA. I work within specifically what is property and casualty, so handling insurance. And I'm focused in the claims department. So when if any of you have had an auto accident or a wreck, right? And you call your insurance company and they start the process to take your loss, to start the process of taking down your information to try to help you, right? Get back on your feet, get your car fixed, get whatever you need repaired. Maybe if you've had an injury, make sure that you've got a doctor, you've got everything taken care of. That is the claims process. So it's a really cool spot to be in, because at the root of it, we're actually facilitating one of the key instruments at USAA that gets people back on their feet. When you lose something, the systems I get to work on and that my teams get to work on really facilitate getting that member, that person who has given us the rights and liberties of our freedoms, back on their feet. It's the ultimate way to thank those and to continue helping those who go out there and put their lives on the line every day. So with that, as I continue to relate, it's interesting. 10 years ago, I was actually in your shoes. I was headed into an internship. My first internship would be the sophomore year of my college undergraduate degree. I went to school at New Mexico State, so I'm from rural New Mexico, and I actually did my first internship at NASA. And it's interesting because in 10 short years, and it feels like 10 short years, they've just blinked like this. I have had the opportunity to not only work at NASA as an intern, but to then be hired at NASA as a co-op, and then onto a part-time contract, all while I was still in school. Then on to General Motors. So, I got to kind of live the dream. I'm a cars guy myself, and was able to join a company and work on SRP systems, a homegrown inside General Motors. And it was just a shell shock experience, because I came out of school, didn't really know, what would it take to get to work in technology at that level, to work for a company of that size, where, you see a General Motors car rolling down the street, you see a Camaro, you see a Silverado, you see a GMC truck, like they're everywhere, right? And it was just an interesting jump, right? So when working for NASA, I was able to work on some pretty cool stuff, right? Working for the government, I got to see a lot of cool stuff. I got to see like the Saturn V. I got to see about a lot of that. It really didn't propel me into understanding technology and the next step as being an intern and trying to find my way towards a career in technology until I went to General Motors. Sad enough, you guys want to take a wild guess at one of the first languages I actually was fortunate to work on when I was at General Motors? Anyone want to take a guess? I guarantee you, all of us are not old enough for this language. This language is older than us. Got one. That's right. That's one of them. Any other takers? No, I didn't have to work on DOS. All right, I'll go ahead and spill it. I actually did. I had to work on, yes, legacy systems, very much legacy systems. I actually worked on COBOL, and then I worked on IBM's derivative from there, which was called PL1. It's very similar to Java, but it's also a procedural based language, all written on what are mainframes using green screen technology. And it felt like it was just as archaic as all can be. But in doing so, I actually was very humbled to learn that most of large companies, right, insurance companies, automotive companies, health companies like health insurance, they all still run on these legacy systems. They are very much rooted and efficient in doing what they need to do. 9 times out of 10, when you're talking to either any of your existing banking systems, like I said, automotive, insurances, the big hitters, you're probably still interfacing with a legacy system that was developed, built, sustained, and maintained before any of us were born. So that was when my journey started to truly take off. I started to understand that being a developer, a software engineer in a place where there's just so much big data, there's enterprise widespread use, whether it is internally or externally. I mean, things like the Chevrolet.com, that's an external website versus, a homegrown SRP system, which I should have explained what an SRP system is. It's a supply chain system that helps you build cars, right? And so it was basically put parts on the plant floor, and when do the trucks come in with all those parts and take inventory and get them down to the floor, and how do we pay for that stuff, right? That's the systems I worked on. It just really kind of connected it all together. So with that being said, right, I quickly figured out that it's like, okay, this is a great spot for me to go. And then I jumped over to USAA. And so I've been on this journey with USAA for close to 4 years now. And what's interesting is I left all that legacy technology and I went ahead and moved into the cloud, right? And so I've actually been developing, I mean, you name it, for the most part, anything. My background is Java. But namely just working a lot with Spring Boot and doing reactive web. I'm an API type developer. That's really where I'm rooted in my backgrounds, even from my college position all the way through. And so I've had the fortunate pleasure to really do a lot of really neat things. And I will tell you, one of my passions is actually messaging platforms. So if any of you all have ever heard of like RabbitMQ, Kafka, those areas, like they're fantastic. And if you ever have an opportunity to go into that area, please do. It is a really neat area to go in. And if you guys have questions about it, I'd be glad to answer some of them here in a little bit. So what's interesting now is what about USAA and what about technology? As I also shared, I'm a senior IT manager. I also shared I was doing a lot of development. Well, here recently I just converted. So now I actually lead teams of developers. And one of the coolest things about what USA is doing is we do have those legacy systems I talked about that General Motors had. We have them and they're still around, but we're actually modernizing. We're currently in the second year of our modernization journey in the claims space. And actually, as USA as a whole across the organization is modernizing all of their platforms. The goal is to actually retire all of our legacy mainframe systems. It's pretty incredible. It's a big move. It's a lot. And these are systems that have maintained USAA's business portfolio for a very long time. The neat part about what we are doing is we started with an internal cloud, right? We actually had a cloud, an on-premise cloud. So basically, if you could just imagine a room full of server racks, right, that we bought and we put Red Hat OpenShift on it. So we actually had our own cloud. It was distributed amongst 2 different data centers. And we were going that route for a little while. There's cost to that. So what we're doing is we're actually going straight public cloud. We're going into AWS. Like we're actually looking to go in and move a lot of our technology, a lot of our business applications, a lot of our member facing applications into the public cloud. So it's a really neat time because what does that mean? That means that if, say, you come into USAA and USAA has an opportunity for you, what would you be doing, right? You'd be doing things like you'd be working to use run to compute servicing like Lambdas, right? You'd be working with languages like Golang, Node, which is a framework, right? But JavaScript. You'd be still continuing through building Java-based Spring Boot REST applications that use reactive web programming and deploying them using EKS Fargate, right? Like there are so much that our teams are doing, and these are the technologies that we use that are going to propel us into the future. All of our front ends are actually built on React, right? So we're not an Angular shop, but we're a React Redux shop. And so it's just, you know, and as you guys, if any of you are members, right, you're seeing some of that transformation occur now, right? You can even go to the homepage, and some things you can tell are from their legacy state, and they're now moving into those newer states because you can tell that there's modern UI design going on, right? There's a lot that USAA is doing. And I will tell you that while all of that is fun, we definitely don't skip when it comes to protecting our members, right? One of the biggest things that we have is knowledge and intellectual property, which is our members' information, right? We take that very seriously at USAA. We can't compromise those who go out and then protect us, right? Some of that information can't be leaked. It cannot be shared, right? If someone got their hands on it, it could actually jeopardize the United States' missions across the globe. So with that, right, like we do top tier encryption for all of our data at rest, right? We also use things like AWS Secrets Manager, and that's some of the portfolio strategies we have going into the cloud, is to make sure that we're not gonna sacrifice some of the security mechanisms that we once had in our old legacy systems just as we move to the cloud. It's at the forefront of our minds, right? To make sure that we're doing everything we can to not only serve the membership, but to protect them, right? From malicious attacks, from having their data leaked, from having any of their information confiscated, right? We don't want that. No one wants that. Neither you nor I or any of the membership in which we have. So with that, right, lots of fun and exciting times at USAA. And so when we talk about, you know, technology, it's a neat thing. It's a really neat place. It's a really neat career path. When I say a place, right, I use that term all the time, right? I call it my home. One of the biggest things that I've learned in my 10 years of growing with USAA and the other companies, and just going from being a young IT professional into a professional then itself, and then kind of maturing into a management role, is that you are the captain of your own ship. I mean, you may have heard that poem a few times. I will not lie, I don't remember the author. I've heard it 9 million times, but you are the captain of your career. You choose where you want to go. You have a fundamental say. If a rural kid from little old New Mexico can go to a university and then somehow make his way out into a bigger world than any of us can, right? What it means is that you are truly in control of where you go. And so some of the skills that I found extremely useful actually have nothing to do with technology, and they're actually applicable in every phase of life, right? Writing and communicating are the key to being effective, period. If you can do that, you will actually find that you will be more efficient, not only in your personal life, but in your work life. You'll be able to communicate and deliver with speed on tasks, right? It's just, it's amazing how a fundamental principle like writing and communicating can actually propel your career. And I will tell you, it's one of the mechanisms in my career that has actually allowed me to grow this fast in 10 years. But there is a battle in today's world. There's so many mediums of communication, and even in the workforce, right? I can tell you, here's the things I battle on a daily basis. Email, I probably get about 300 emails a day. Chat, so Slack. You guys, if any of you all heard of Slack, I'm sure there's commercials. I mean, it's a fun place to be. You guys use it on a personal level? You raise your hand if you'd like.
We use it for the externship.
Oh, beautiful. See, and it's just, isn't that a fun tool? How many of you guys know the Giphy? Like the Giphy add-on, like we use that all the time at work. It's so much fun. You guys don't have that? No? Okay. When you get a chance, go look that up. It's pretty fun. So like there's all kinds of add-ons, there's all kinds of supplemental tools, but it also pollutes like the way you communicate. Also to Zoom, what we're doing right now, right? You know, it's hard to be an email and Zoom and doing all this all over the place. And so as we traverse and as you guys jump into careers in IT, right, you're going to be immersed into the same subsets of problems that everyone all the way up to a CIO, who is your chief information officer for a company, has this problem. Here's the best advice I can give you, and this is how I get through my day. Prioritize your objectives, right? It's as simple as, you know, I know I have to go to class A, class B, class C, right? Whether I have to go to English, I have to go to math that day, I need to be in class, go do that. Or whether I need to go and take a night class so that I can get through obtaining a certification. Prioritize your day, prioritize your communication, right? And so as you focus on those, I've actually found myself never believing that I'd need one, but I actually have this planner that I've been using for a couple years now, and it's been super helpful, right? So sometimes even when you have all this digital in the world, finding a small notepad or something to kind of keep you on track and prioritize your objectives as you need to communicate and write will actually help yourself. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump back over to one of the websites in which I would like to talk more about how do you get to join USAA's team. Okay, so if you just type in usaajobs.com, I'm going to put it in here. It's a fantastic site. They actually just redid a lot of it. And so you'll probably see here, right, USAA at 100, because we are celebrating our 100th year of service. And in here, you'll have the opportunity to find anything from student programs to veteran jobs, and then learn more about working at USAA and the locations there within. As you come through here, you can find all the different career areas, right? And for you all, the large majority of the focus is going to be in information technology. The other thing that's neat too is it just kind of gives you a breadth of understanding that USAA is a very, from a culture perspective, is very in tune with their employees. They care about you. They want to care about you, right? They care about where you go. They care about how you're doing, how you are doing, so that you do well on behalf of the membership in which we serve. And so it's a neat place to go and work. And so as you go into the student programs, they do offer things like internships. So you can explore different internship opportunities. And I'm actually pleased to share that, like, we actually do offer internships in the Phoenix location. I'm taking on an intern here this summer. And so there's plenty of opportunities even right here around you. And so I would highly recommend you guys go out here if you're interested to identify either a career path with USAA, whether it is you're looking for a full-time position, if you meet the requirements, and the same for the student program. So if you're a student looking to get some experience in corporate America and or just kind of trying to expand your horizons, come out here and look at internship opportunities. Okay, so the last thing I want to leave you guys with is actually a short video, and it's from the USA. It's the interns. Our interns actually have such a good time that they are able to share some of their experiences, as well as jump into kind of the work in which they've done. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you guys to give you guys a little bit of a snippet on what it's like to have fulfilled an internship at USAA.
Whoa! Sorry, Kim. Didn't see you there.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just working on some code right now. I'm just coding.
Cool.
Hey, Ashton. What are you listening to?
Whoa, hey, Anthony. I'm just listening to some new beats.
Those sound fresh. Can I listen?
Yeah, sure.
This is Business Professional Productions with E-Flow, USA Anthony, and Kimmy K. Get ready, because we're about to push this beat up.
Yo, it's 5 o'clock, but we's working some overtime. Kimmy K, USA Anthony, and E-Flow about to bust some rhymes. The summer at the side ho. Couldn't get much better, but we'll try to top it off because you hire go-getters. There's been some misconceptions about the meaning of BTO, cause I'm pretty sure all of my managers told me the word that the letters stand for was extract, transform, and load the people listen in. E is for info, T is for Tony, and L is for little Kim. We're here to share with you the lessons from our summer, and I know we're leaving soon, but please don't cry, it's not a total bummer. The people we met at USAA have really been the best, and now I can say my resume's almost impressive as Brian Hart's chest. We got a bank, but it ain't about the Benjamins. We learned there's much more value in the happiness of veterans. But getting paid today with stage and racking up the dollars really makes you college entry feel like straight up ballers.
Walking through the spots, feeling like LAX. You know what they say, they do it big in the great TX. Going down to Starbucks, get my morning Joe. Robles is my homeboy cause he's all about my flow.
Moving all this data with connection string sequential files. Walking down from A to H, I'm getting in my half mile. Pit stop at the end, play a game of ping pong. If Geico's like a lizard, USAA's King Kong.
Perhaps the most important thing about IT is this, and I know that this is true because my mentor made a list, but acronyms on acronyms on acronyms on acronyms. Oh my god, seriously, there's just too many acronyms. Don't get me wrong, you see, none of these are complaints because our time as IT interns has been nothing short of great. But if we were fined for every time our rhymes got out of hand, I just got one thing to say, girl. Put it on my cams.
And so, oh, I know, did I not finish it? Whoops.
I think we just broke prod.
So as you can see, USA, that is the embodiment of the culture of USAA. When you're an intern, you also have the opportunity to do a final project. And that was actually part of their final project, is to share what they've learned. And so, you know, it's not only just about IT, it's not only just about software, it's about being around a community of people who have a similar interest. And I can tell you that from being an intern all the way up to leading teams that are actually delivering on multi-scale platforms and delivering literally nightly code to prod in a modern tech stack, there's opportunity out there. It's just how you choose to seize it, okay? And so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. And at this point, now I'm good for questions if anyone has any.
Sounds good. Anyone has any questions?
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for hopping on. Got a question for you. In terms of post-COVID, right? Are there any trends at the workforce or technology at USA that you're super excited for? Anything that's being maybe different than it was maybe 2 years ago?
Oh,
Or
yes.
3 years ago?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And boy, has COVID not just impacted all of us, right? And, you know, from bottom of my heart, I hope everyone has been safe. I hope none of you all have had to deal with COVID, right? I mean, I think it has not been fun for anyone. But to answer your question, my friend, it's really more, yes, things have changed. Absolutely. Look at us. We're in Zoom. This is literally just like the biggest change that all of us had to account for. I would take off my background and I would show you that I'm in my own home right now. So what that tells you is that we're actually looking towards a hybrid model. There's a lot out there in the world that you guys can see. You can go to you can just go to Google and type in, what is it? Remote work from home. You can go into, return to office. So RTO, that's a really hot concept right now across many places. So like, what is the return to office plan? You know, there's places like Google and Wells Fargo that are actually dropping mandates to tell people they got to come in the office. USA is not doing that. That's not what USA is doing. USA truly does believe in their employees. So we actually have different models. So we actually, as an IT professional, like we have a hybrid model. So we're allowed to go into the office when we need to, when we feel that it provides business benefit. And at the same time, like we have the flexibility to be at home, right? Where when we need to be heads down, and especially for like my guys, like that are doing development where they got to meet their deliverables and we're looking to continue modernizing our platform, like sometimes it's beneficial to not be around somebody. I need to just jam out like those guys were doing and just get to work, right? And I will tell you that that flexibility is, again, an embodiment of the culture, a representation of what the company is truly about. It's truly about taking care of their employees. So I hope I was able to answer your question, but post-COVID, we're very flexible. So. All right, any other questions?
Hi, Michael. This is Leah. I do have a question for you. I was wondering, what advice do you have for someone who is new to technology?
Sure. So one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got early on too, and it was actually from my brother, who my brother's 14 years older than I am, and he's in information technology. And of course, when we talk about technology, it's like we go into a corner of the room. But early on, I didn't really know how to get into technology. I won't lie, I didn't write my first computer program until I was a sophomore in college. I really didn't know anything about computers, to be completely frank. I was actually a football player in high school, and I was very good at math, but I didn't really get into computers. Like, it just wasn't my thing. And it wasn't until I went into information systems at the university I attended is when I finally started to fall in love with it. The biggest piece of advice, again, coming back to that, I got: be willing to learn. Be willing to be vulnerable while you learn. You're not going to get it the first time. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 times, and that's okay. The key is being persistent. It will come. And seek advisement, right? There's so much information out there. It's almost like you can just drink from a fire hose. Some of it's really good, some of it's really bad. I mean, I've read some blogs and I've read some how-tos, going, oh no, I shouldn't look at this anymore, right? And so those are the biggest pieces of advice I can give you. Be vulnerable when you learn and keep learning. The learning will never stop, right? And then continue to ask questions where you need help and seek advisement.
Thank you, Michael, for your.
You bet. All right, go for it. Any questions? Further questions? Yes,
Hi,
go
I'm
ahead.
Maria. Thank you. I wondered how you are able to navigate different cultures when you switch from one organization to another. What's that shift like?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because going from NASA, where you worked in the government, where there's red tape everywhere, and it's really hard to get some things done, and they maybe are underfunded to a degree where they can't actually operationalize, like our friend who shared on Monday shared how the state government's doing, to moving to General Motors, which is basically an automotive one of the top tier automotive companies, and they have employees at 220,000, and you almost just feel like you're a cog in the wheel. Like, you don't even know how you fit into this whole thing, and you do. Down to USAA, where you're just so member focused and a little bit smaller of a company, but is moving to modernize. And also too, each one of those are different. They're all different, right? I think the way I can equate it is, it's not simple, but the one pillar that binds all of it together is the people. Every time I've had to jump ship to a different industry, I really never know what I'm getting into. I'm not an insurance person. I'm not a certified adjuster. I definitely wasn't a mechanic. I mean, I know how to change the radiator out on a car, but like, that's different because that's what I learned as a kid growing up in rural New Mexico. But I don't know how the car completely goes together. I don't know how engines work, right? All the way to, well, I definitely don't know how the heck we got that thing on the moon, right? But it's pretty cool that it's there, that it's the people. So you ask those questions. And it goes back to that first comment about being a little bit vulnerable, right? Being willing to put yourself out there to ask those questions, because you'd be surprised at the people that will come to your aid and be willing to share the knowledge. And as you transition between those lines of business, they know that you're coming to support the technology. You're not coming with an understanding or a background of, hey, I know how insurance works. I know how every part of it works. I can tell you 4 years ago when I joined USAA, I have no clue how, like, true, outside of me having been hit and filing a claim because I'm a member of USAA, how a claim truly worked. And over those 4 years, through learning, through, again, being vulnerable, asking questions, I'm I've come to know quite a bit about how claims work. Now I look at my policy a whole lot different. I can tell you that, but that's what's interesting is there's really no good advice other than seek people, build community, right? Find a way to connect, and those people will in turn give back to you.
Great advice. Thank you.
You bet. All right.
Leo.
Go ahead. None. Hey, Leo.
Hi. So how do you keep motivation? How do you keep up your motivation to keep learning? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things where it's really difficult to, you do find lulls. I'll be frank and honest. You get good at something, and sometimes you're just kind of like, all right, I'm coasting. I feel good with that. But with the world of technology, nothing ever truly coasts. I mean, what's funny to me is when people say, all right, we're going into maintenance support. Okay, until the business wants something else and we're going to go build something else, right? Like there's just this pipeline always coming. There's always new tech. And then also too, there might be well, wait a minute, we could totally save a lot of money from moving from here to here, moving from on-prem to the cloud. Well, then that means we have to take that whole application and rewrite it in a completely different language and put it on architecture we know nothing about, right? So sometimes that can be tough, right? It's not simple, but the motivation comes from knowing that the world of technology is just ever changing, right? You kind of need to just embody that, right? And when you do find those lulls, find something that really sparks your interest, right? That truly gets you motivated. When I was first kind of coming back into reactive programming and things like that, I was like, I guess I don't know how to do a Spring Boot API like I did 3 or 4 years ago. I guess I should maybe look up how to do that again, and one of the things that always spun in my head, I love music. And I was like, well, how did Spotify do it? So I go read about Spotify. That's how it started, right? Just kind of like going, oh, interesting. They do a lot of microservice type stuff. Cool. How hard would it be to build that? So I started building something like it, right? And I'm just talking backend APIs that actually just give you metadata about like artists and doing some object-oriented design. And I just built a small document database, right, using Mongo, and just was like playing around with it. That kind of stuff. Tie it to something that means something to you. I love music. My capstone project in college was I wanted to rip Pandora off. I couldn't believe it. Like there was YouTube and then there was Pandora, and you had to pay for Pandora, but you had YouTube. So it was like, wow, couldn't we just like figure out a way to take everyone's interests and then go query YouTube all the time and start playing music, the music that I would like, and then just keep a record of what they like, and then basically work to build that genome project in an open source free community version. It never went anywhere, by the way. I got through that class, and then I went on to General Motors where we didn't do anything about music. But find that interest. That's what keeps me motivated. Also too, it's really fulfilling to teach. I can share with you one of the biggest things that has been fulfilled in my career, and I continue to try to fulfill it, is coaching and teaching, right? It's about the people. When you see someone else light up, when they figure out how something works and you had a part of it, that is almost as much fun, in my opinion, as pushing something to production and watching a business user take satisfaction with the code in which you've developed. There is motivation all around in those spaces. So Leo, I hope I was able to give you 2 examples of how I keep my motivation going. Cool. Feel free to raise your hand if you guys have any further questions.
Hi, Michael. This is Italo. I was wondering how your day looks like during when you do your job.
Absolutely. So funny enough, I just converted to be a manager, right? We're talking within the last 3 to 4 months. So I really did just come off the floor, and I was a lead developer. So I'll talk about my lead developer day, and then I'll talk about my manager day. So as a lead developer, modernizing in our new system, we actually have moved to, we actually externalized our claims operating system. So Guidewire, that's public knowledge, and you guys can actually go out there and look at it. But we actually bought Guidewire's suite of applications to help us process our claims. So I actually was, and it's its own language. It's a language called Gosu. It's a derivative of Kotlin. It's kind of like a Java scripting hybrid. It's really different. It's neat. It was fun. So when I was a lead developer, I was actually solutioning how we would move data in and out of systems, right? We're talking USAA takes on about 4 million claims a year. That's a large volume of data that moves in and out of a particular system. And the fact that we bought something and then they are going to host it in their own cloud as a vendor, mind boggling, right? So, you know, I spend a lot of my times developing niche solutions, right, on behalf of USAA as a lead developer. I also spend a lot of time coaching and fostering an environment where, as my teammates had tasks, right, who were underneath me, we could help them learn, grow, move to the next step, give them more challenging assignments, right? So in a way, I was pseudo managing, right, making sure that we would put before those folks the right tasks to accomplish the job, to get them propelling on their career. And then I did spend a lot of time in meetings, right? Because at that time, right when all of COVID happened, was right when we started building. And it was crazy because it was like we had a whole lot of talk, whole lot of conversation, a whole lot of requirements that we had gathered, analysis that had been done. And we were doing this in large buildings, you know, 50, 60 people, and then COVID hit. And now we were an execution team of 200 people and, you know, 4 or 5 of us leads. And we were just sitting here like going, oh my goodness, how are we going to pull this off? Right. And we did. We pulled it off. We actually went live in October with glass and roadside claims. And we are actually pleasantly going live. We went live last Thursday with the rest of our auto claims line of business. And we're actually doing our model office where they actually have adjusters taking losses in the new system starting Tuesday. So my day as a developer was hectic. I spent a lot of time talking to business, working through solutions, developing niche solutions, and then fostering and coaching teams. As I moved to a manager role, I quickly found that I still do a lot of development. There's still a need there, right? We're still bridging that gap. And a lot of it is that's just natural attrition that happens at companies, right? There's things that I know that from those 2.5 years of developing that system that are still needed. But as a manager, my focus really did shift more into people, right? I get to do as you guys can probably tell, I'm very inspired and happy to share, teach, and grow people. Like that's one of the things that I've always been rooted in and is one of my driving motivations. And so as a manager, I just get to do a little bit more of that. I also get to help kind of slot the work, align with the business on a portfolio about, okay, what projects are coming up and kind of helping my guys get lined up to do work that's within their wheelhouse. And so it's really fulfilling when you get to sit in front of a team and go, hey, by the way, you guys are going to get this really neat new initiative and you're going to take it to the cloud and it's your own and you get to do it your way within these constraints. Right. And the constraints of an enterprise, right? I mean, it can't be just free, right? Because again, we have an enterprise we're running, again, goes back to the principle of protecting our members' data. We have standards in which we need to fulfill, right? And all of that. But within that fence, they can do and be technologists. And it's really fun to watch them light up when they go, oh, so I get to choose some of the technology we get to use. Yep, from this stack, go for it. Whatever solves the problem. And whatever is scalable and whatever is putting us and modernizing us, future-proofing us and moving us forward. So I got a couple questions here before I keep going. Did I get that correct? Did you, or not correct, but did you get your question answered? Cool. All right, so Maria's got a question in the chat. Can you tell us more about the modernizing process? I wish it was as simple as turn the light switch off on the old one and turn the light switch off on the new one. It is not. So there's 2 different ways that I've learned that modernizing can occur. You can do what is called a sunset approach to modernizing or a dual operations mode, or you can do what's called a hard cutover. And this is about as most technical I'm going to get with you guys because, right, I mean, I can go even further if you wanted to. When you sunset or dual operational move from a legacy system to a new system, what you're basically saying is, I'm going to keep the lights on in the old system. I'm going to build the new system, and I'm going to build a way for them both to maintain operations where I can basically do this. So I slowly turn the volume down on the old one and I turn the volume up on the new system. And that is very tricky because you're dealing with you could be dealing with archetypes and data types from a much different platform. You're trying to kind of cohesively bind all of that information together. And maybe sometimes you'll have information that pops in and out between the modern platform, depending on where it's at in the process, all the way to the legacy platform. And you're like, I got to account for that. It's a lot more safe because what it does is it allows the business that capability to fall back, right? So, when they think about it, right, because again, we're a service-driven industry, right? USAA is, right? We're in the service industry, and the technology we support is technology that serves insurance. It's about the member. It's about their claim. We have to be thinking about that all the time. So it's easy for us to make sure that the systems our adjusters use to do that job, they have something to fall back on that's comfortable for them until we can get them to the new platform. So that's actually what USAA is doing. You could do the hard cutover approach, which is light switch on, and the old one's still running, but it's a light switch on and everybody starts on the new one. It's a lot harder to execute. There's a lot of variables involved. Is it from a technologist perspective, like from an engineering perspective? That's the one we all like, because it's like, well, let's just turn it on and see what happens, right? But we're not just doing technology, right? Like if we were at Google and we were working for FANG, so like the Facebooks, Apples, Netflixes, Googles, like, and what I always had called the big leagues of development, right? There are places in those companies where you can do things like that. It's experimented for a reason. It is a true tech shop. When you work for the service industry or you work as a supporting arm in technology, you don't necessarily get all of those chances. Not to say there's not incubation units and there's not places where you can go proof of concept stuff. Absolutely. But the bottom line is this technology that we're building fundamentally supports a business of some kind. And that's extremely important to keep in mind. And so when you talk about modernizing, it's tricky, right? And in coming full circle, it's not simple, but it is fun. It is a definite challenge. And it is, because it's not simple and because it is tricky, you find yourself talking with your peers about these things years after you've done them and laughing sometimes, having, commiserating on memories, right? And it's part of that modernization process that it's really something you only do once or twice in your career, right? If you're in our line of work, most of the time you end up doing small projects, feature development, or maintenance and support of systems that have already been running. But to do full scale, whole scale rebuilds, modernizations, it's tough. It's crazy fun, but it is crazy. Like I said, it's crazy fun. So let's see here. I'm sorry, before I keep going, Maria, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
You bet. Let's see here. So next question from Michelle. What does it mean for a language to be a derivative of another? So what's interesting about that is it's a language being a derivative for another. I'll give you my opinion, right? And I'll give you kind of my perspective on it. Because one of the things that you'll find that if you go into a computer science degree or an information systems degree, they actually teach classes that talk to how do you see between the lines and read languages agnostic of each other, but understanding how they compute together, right? So meaning, right, how can you quickly bridge the gap between C# and Java, right? Fundamentally on paper, they're written differently. The syntax looks different, but they operationally do similar things. So when you talk about a language being a derivative of another, it's basically taking a language down to its bare bones and saying, okay, well, what if this language didn't make sense, right? What if this language needs to be enhanced? And so when we talk about languages that are derivatives of others, the one that I can think of is actually one that's still very near to me. I won't say near and dear because I've had my bouts with Gosu, but Gosu is a proprietary language that started inside of a company has grown to become Kotlin. So how many of you all have heard of Kotlin? Have you guys played with it? Okay. Well, Gosu is the father of Kotlin. Actually, maybe even the great grandfather of Kotlin, right? When you talk about script hybrid languages. And so when they say they're derivatives of another, what they're doing is they're fundamentally breaking down the principles of the original language and in trying to truly enhance it. They're trying to move it forward, right? They're trying to find the flaws in the original language to try to remediate them to help enhance and make sure that you can move yourself forward as a software engineer to do what? Develop, produce. If it takes 9 months to figure out half of the language to then get it into prod, and if you can reduce that cycle time, that's what it means to develop languages that are derivatives of others. It's just that continual compounding learning, right? We learn from the languages we've built, and they're all in their history. We continue to tune them and make them better. So that's what it means to me for a language to be a derivative of another. So Michelle, I hope I was able to get near your question. And if not, please feel free to ask further.
No, that makes sense. So what kind of problems would one language like run into that would warrant making like another? Because what I got from that was that like the derivative is newer, right? It can function better, if I got that right.
Yeah, it just depends. What parts of the language? Is it the runtime? Is it the compute? Right? Is it the functional mechanisms in which you perform? Right? So like how open is it to taking on new libraries? How open source based is it? Right? Things like that. And so as you grow older in the language stacks, those concepts that I just rattled off, they really don't exist. You go back to COBOL and PL1. I mean, you had to pay some big bucks to get, new pigums pulled over, and they call them pigums. They're just short for programs. I used to call them pigs, but that's neither here nor there. But like, you'd have to pay some big dollar to get that pulled in. But you can go out now and like because we have Maven, we have Gradle, we have all these new technologies and these artifactories full of open source technology. Java has leveraged itself or leaned into, all right, well, I don't know how to solve that problem, but I still have a strong runtime environment. Let me go ahead and open myself up to build out these libraries that I can use, right? Maybe Java don't need to build them. So Sun Microsystems and Java wouldn't own them, but you can have Spring, right? As an entire framework who's built out a suite of different libraries that are all fundamentally written in either Java, Groovy, things of that nature, that compute down into a Java jar or JRE, right? Or I'm sorry, Java jar that runs in the runtime. You just pull it in. Life is good, right? And so as you think about it, from where we've come from to where we are at now, like it will continue to change. The most neat one that I've been researching here lately, and it's because I'm still not that familiar with it, is Golang from Google, and Google built it. It is 10x faster as far as compute than your typical Java application. And that's why it's actually one of the preferred languages with writing lambdas, because with lambdas in AWS, every time you need to do something, so say I have written a small function that's going to calculate out a couple of different math equations, right? And give me a result, right? Something that simple. What's neat is until I request it, it's actually not running. Like there is no server. There's nothing. I ask for it, and then basically the compute spins up immediately, and then it goes and does it, dumps it out, and then drops off. And I only paid for that little part that ran. And that's huge in our world, because normally we have to go pay for a server that has to run, and it's just sitting there running and waiting until I get something, right? So when you think about having to spin up, do the thing, dump the thing, and turn off, Golang is huge, because now if you're 10x faster than any other language down at the runtime level, you just saved a lot of money. because what you paid for is just that spike. That's it. When you pay for a server, you paid for the server and you pay for it to run. So Michelle, I'm hope that that little explanation also helped you kind of bridge some of those gaps in your question.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
That
Sounds really interesting. So I'll look more into that.
absolutely. It's a world of it's an immense library, guys. Technology won't ever stop. By the time we're all done, retired, moved on to our next thing, I'm not even sure what it's going to be, but I can tell you this: PL1 and COBOL will somehow still be around. I just, after doing them for so long, like they're going to be around. These new modernization platforms we're writing, they're going to be around too. There's going to be new languages to tackle. There's going to be new frameworks. For all we know, there's another AWS ideal out there. We don't know what it is. Go back to 1995. I mean, what's funny is I was 3 years old then, but that's a terrible example. But more or less, you go back that far, no one knew about the cloud. The cloud wasn't a thing. And we have no clue where we're going to be in 20 years. But the cool part is you guys where you're all at now, you could be there, right? Find that motivation, find that drive. You may end up finding yourself being a part of the pilot programs within whatever technology platform you're in, driving a solution that even from the service industry ends up making itself available for everyone to use. Because if everyone remembers what Amazon really wasn't technology. They actually sold books. That was what Amazon started with. They were just a library. They wanted to exchange books and sell books. And now look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos is just rolling in it at this point, right? So.
Hi, Michael. This is Italo again. Like, I was wondering, like, you mentioned that you were modernizing some old systems. Like, which challenges do you face in this modernization process?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the challenges that we faced is the difference in how our business models have executed against the data from our legacy systems. So over time, right? So when you build a new system, you actually build a platform that is tied to the business portfolio at that time. And so when you go into feature enhancing and you're doing support and maintenance, over time, your business model changes, right? As your business changes, as you're taking on different avenues. So like with USAA, we have things like a one-stop shop. So like I can come into my phone and I can get updates about my claim, right? Well, that didn't exist in 1995. Yeah, that wouldn't be there, right? So the base data models are what they are, but then you've built all this layer of application, right? Like this business tier, right? In the applications to help you transform that data so that it can be used by the business in these new mediums. Well, when you do that for 20, 30 years, you have layers and layers and layers of solutions that differentiate from the bottom line business or from the bottom line data sets. And that makes it tricky because now what you're trying to do is you're trying to unravel all of that in your modernization. You're trying to shove it all into the new thing. And you're like, whoa, wait, why did we do that? Why was that done? Right? So we usually ask yourself why a lot when you're modernizing. And then you end up trying to bring that forward, right? That data model forward. So it all comes back down to the data and it comes back to the experiences you want to deliver to your business. So I think that's one of the more challenging things we face. And as I shared with earlier as per Maria's question, when you're trying to do the dual operations, that makes it even harder, right? Because now you have to still maintain that old data model, still have to maintain some of that older stuff and some of those layers that are still embedded there so that those pieces of the system still work while you're trying to move and migrate it all into the modern platform, the future in essence.
Michael, I know you wanted it to be done at the top of the hour. Can we ask just one more question?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
Hi. Yeah, Michael. We have to do a research project for this externship. my team is looking for an intersection of blockchain and healthcare. Do you have any insights on this? It could be healthcare, blockchain, or both.
Absolutely. So I know that and so from a blockchain and healthcare, from a healthcare perspective, I do not have very much insight. So I'll just go ahead and be honest, right? And by the way, another great quality in trade, if you can be honest in whatever you do, you'll find that people will help you. Okay. I don't know the good answer to healthcare, but from a blockchain perspective, like USAA actually has implemented blockchain solutions that actually are associated to State Farm. So we do have some blockchain solutions inside the insurance industry, and actually there's quite a few articles out there that if you were to say want to go look at how blockchain is utilized within insurance, you can feel free to go look at them. As far as the nuances on how blockchain fundamentally executes with insurance, I was actually not a part of those teams at Claims, within Claims USAA. I'm just basically sharing with you, there's a lot of resources if you were curious about how insurance uses blockchain to continue moving their business forward. I do apologize. That was a tough one for me because those are two areas that I'm not as familiar in, but I hope I was able to help guide you a little bit.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Do you have any lasting advice? So for example, if you were an extern in their shoes, what would you do?
Absolutely. And as an extern who was in your shoes, right, 10 years ago, have courage. It's not, I think that's the biggest piece of advice. Have courage, put yourself out there. You really don't know what you will be getting yourself into. You're going to be nervous. You're going to have that pit in your stomach. You're going to be excited that moment you get an acceptance. You're going to feel sad that moment you get a rejection. And I will tell you, I've been down both those roads. Be courageous. Keep pioneering your career. Remember what I said at the very beginning. You are the captain of your career. You choose where you go. Your ceiling is only yours to attain. And so that's my lasting piece of advice. And that's not just something that you can take to just IT. That's applied anywhere, right? Be courageous in what you do, be vulnerable, and continue moving forward for yourself and for your growth opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. If everyone can say thank you to Michael, please do so right now.
Hey, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you all for sitting with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, Michael.
Great advice.
I love the intern music video.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Fantastic. Well, if you get an opportunity to be an intern at USAA, maybe you'll make one of your own. Maybe we'll see the 2022 version, 2023. Thank you guys.
I hope so.
You guys have a fantastic weekend, and I appreciate you guys giving me this kind of time on a Friday and having questions. I will tell you, if this was half the people I worked with, they'd be like, dude, we're done. It's Friday. It's time to go home.